Hi everybody, good morning. Today I wanted to chat about a question that a lot of people ask. I ask, how do I know when to stop writing? Let me paint a picture for you. You're working on a book, you've sent it off to your editor maybe, your editor's working on it, and you're driving down the road and you think, oh my God, I just thought of a story I have to add in the book. Or you're in the backyard fixing the flood that's occurred. Maybe I'm just speaking from personal experience, fixing the flood that's occurred because whilst you were digging up irrigation lines, you hit one accidentally. And as you're piecing together two pieces of irrigation pipe, you think to yourself, this would make a great story. Where can I add this in the book? Like, even though the book is 5 minutes from being available to the world, you suddenly think, I have to put that in there, number one. And then you think, what if I don't put it in there? And then you think, oh my God, I don't think the book is complete without this story or this piece of information or this lesson or this mantra or this description of the flood in my garden or this metaphor, whatever it is. And you start to get into this really uncomfortable place of what if? What if it's not really done? What if I'm releasing it prematurely? Let me help you with this. When this happens, and it will happen the day after you submit your manuscript to your editor, and it will happen the week after you publish the book, and it will happen a year after you publish the book, and let me save everyone here, because what will happen is you will message whoever did the formatting of your book. If you did it yourself, you'll be back in there redoing it because you'll think, oh my God, the beauty of being with a small press is I can just re-upload. I can make changes and I can re-upload. And that's true, but the question really comes down to number one, do you want to? And then number two, when do you declare the book done? And this is a really hard question for people because, and it's not for the reason you think. It's not because you're afraid to declare the book finished. It's because you're afraid to release it, and that without this, I'm going to say, silly little piece of content, the book isn't right. That's not your real fear. Your real fear is that the whole thing isn't right. And so if I can find a reason not to launch it, or to delay the launch, or to just delay thinking about the whole thing, that'll make me feel better right now. That's really what you're doing. And until you acknowledge that, you'll continue doing it. That still begs the question, however, how do I know when I've got all the content in that I need to get in there? How do I feel confident that what I've written is enough and be able to readily release it into the world? Here's the answer. If the content that you have come up with whilst driving down the road, fixing a flood in the backyard, showering, wherever you get these brilliant ideas, if it is pillar content, and I'm going to talk to you about what pillar content is in a second. If it is pillar content, then it probably needs to be added. What is pillar content? Pillar content has to do with the full shell of your message. So if you have a methodology for doing something, let's say you have a 3-part methodology for improving your life. This is all coming off something, and I haven't even had coffee yet. If you realize, oh my God, I've talked about 3 points, but it's actually 4. And it truly is. Like, the 4th isn't just some random thing that you thought, oh my God, should there be 4? Like, maybe there should be 4. I think this thing might be a thing. If you've truly recognized, because you're working with a coach or something's happening and you're figuring, then that content needs to be in there. But that comes with a disclaimer. And the disclaimer is this. If you start writing the book without knowing for sure what your pillar content is, you got a problem. this does not mean that you have solved the world's problems. It does not mean that in a year you can't add a piece to your pillar content. It does not mean that your program or your methodology cannot evolve from the time you publish a book on the topic to 6 months, a year, 10 years later. It does not mean that. But in order for you to feel solid in what you are putting out there, you have to take the time to get clear with yourself about what your pillar content is. And then everything else is built around that. Does that make sense? So again, when you are sitting down going, well, do I include this story? Do I include this story? Do I include this? Do I do a brain dump? Do I put it all out there? The answer is yes. And then you have to be very clear about which piece of pillar content, and it's like the spokes of a wheel, right? And so think of it as maybe in your hub of your wheel, you have your 3 pillars, your 4 pillars, your 5 pillars. However, if you have more than 5 pillars, if you have more than 7 pillars, I'm definitely concerned. But it's usually somewhere between 3 and 7. Okay? Each one of your pieces of content that's included thereafter should be like a spoke off of wherever that pillar content sits on the hub. If the content that you're thinking, my God, I should really include this story about how I trapped a bee yesterday and couldn't get it out of my house, does that really like fit with one of these things in a strong way? Or is that a piece of peripheral content that you could use in an email, in a blog post, in a Facebook post, to go live with? I mean, that kind of content's really valuable too, because that's what drives people to the meat. But you have got to be real clear about what the meat is. I didn't like the way that sounded, but you have got to be real clear about your pillar content. And that's exactly what we do through the Book Writing Accelerator, which starts, we have enrollment open now. It starts in January. It's a super small container, and it is for you if you are a growth-minded entrepreneur, healer, or leader who just cannot figure out how to get your book started or finished. This program gets you to a first draft that will give you goosebumps. Because when you read it, all of a sudden it's like there it all is. You know you have it in here and in here. It's just real discombobulated. It's real discombobulated. So one of the things that we do, one of my pillars that I coach on and teach is getting super clear on what your pillars are. And even if you join it, even if you're saying right now, well, I'm not 100% sure what my pillars are, that's okay. Because we're going to get real clear. But we're going to get real clear before you start aimlessly writing and having to go back later and go, well, this doesn't fit, and this doesn't fit, and this doesn't fit, which ultimately leads to, oh my God, what am I doing? I can't do this. Put it in a drawer. I'm done. Moving on. You'll come back to it in a year, and you'll want to do it again. I promise. So let's get it right the first time. Oh, what's happening here? Enrollment is open. I will put the link here. It is by application only, and it's going to be amazing. It's 12 weeks of not just getting clear on your pillars, but getting clear on your voice, getting confident in your voice, getting clear on how you stand out in the marketplace amidst this sea of other people who you think are writing about the exact same thing. And you're thinking, well, how the hell am I going to stand out? You will, you can. It's not that difficult. Where I'm going to help you get clear about it. Who's your reader? We don't do reader avatars. Like I don't do who's your avatar. I only like avatar if it's a movie and there are blue people and they're really, really big. Otherwise, I don't like talking about avatars because for me, it's gotten to a place where it's like, well, what magazines is your ideal reader reading? Who cares? We get clear about what your reader's concerns are. What are your reader's fears? What are the things that your reader has tried 11,000 times or more to get through and just can't do it. Just hasn't been, they can do it, but they haven't been able to do it. What is their greatest point of frustration? And I don't even like the term pain point anymore because it feels yucky to like feel as though you're kind of taking advantage of someone's, and you're not. You're just identifying it because you understand it, because you've been through it, and now you can get them through it. So we get really clear on those things. And I promise you, once this isn't the sexy work, like people are like, but we're not writing. You will be. And you know what? You will be writing with greater confidence, greater excitement, greater intention, and greater purpose than you ever would have been if you thought, okay, this weekend, here's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to sit down and do a brain dump, and I'm just going to put it all out on paper, and somehow, some way, it's just all going to come together. That's like saying I'm going to throw a bunch of Legos out on the table, like 6,000 Legos out on the table, and figure out how to build this Harry Potter castle. You need some instructions. So let's create a wrinkle in time. The book writing accelerator is the wrinkle in time. So again, the point of this is, if you're wondering if you need to add the content, there's only one question you need to ask yourself. And that question is, does this story, lesson, sentence, analogy, does it relate directly to a piece of pillar content in such a way that it elevates the pillar content, that it makes it even stronger? You'll be able to come up with ideas and examples until the end of time, but does it make it even stronger than it already is? And if the answer is yes, then I might give you permission to add it. But more often than not, I'd say like 97.46% of the time, it's not. So make a note of it, put it in your notes of topics to talk about in other places, and move on with life and just breathe, because the book is going to be great. That's it for today. Have an amazing rest of your Wednesday. Talk to you guys soon. I don't even know how to stop this thing. No, like for real.